Hey guys, it's April 16th. I know it's been a while since I've made one, so I got a lot of stuff. So I'll be bouncing all over the place. Hope you guys are all doing good. Continue to take your kelp because nothing has changed in Japan. It's not like they've fixed it and things have gotten better. Nothing's gotten better. But I'm just gonna start. It's actually been, I think, like 12, 14 days. So there's a lot of news and I'm bouncing all over the place. But first, in San Francisco, California, this is from, it's a blog, a guy that's a writer for the Oakland Press named AlexanderHiggins.com, that they have found radiation in the San Francisco tap water. That's the water that comes into their sink. It's 181% higher than normal. And what the EPA and the governments have already done is they've raised the standards for what's safe. Before Fukushima, the government said that radiation can't be this high above whatever number it is. It would be unsafe. So what they've done now is they've raised that level because everything is coming up over that level. So they're like, well, it wasn't safe before, but it's safe now. But you'll see that in a lot of stuff. They have found radiation in milk. This is from April 4th from CNN. So it's probably even worse by now, but they've found radiation in milk in Washington, California, and Oregon, on the West Coast. You got oil prices, you know that, are skyrocketing. They're the highest they've ever been in Great Britain, and Great Britain's always been higher than us. And this is all, everything's together. Everything you have about the oil, silver, gold, the economy, Obama, this is all tied. Don't think that it's not tied. Here's a thing from Reuters, an article saying that oil could hit $200 to $300 a barrel based on Saudi unrest. And it's not just Saudi unrest. It's, it started in Egypt, Libya. Next is going to be Yemen. You're going to see that what's going on that happened in Egypt and going on in Libya, Yemen will be next. And it's all about the oil. But yet they don't care about the Ivory Coast where there's thousands of people dying all the time. Thousands of black people. They don't care. The country of India, which is huge, has now banned all food from Japan because of radiation. This is from Yahoo News. And if India is concerned about it, why aren't we? It's the food coming from Japan is what we don't need. Here's from Bloomberg that they have caught fish in the area around the nuke site, and the radioactivity in the fish exceeds health guidelines. And it's not like you don't think those fish stay right there. They swim all over, and they'll be caught and they'll be brought here, and we're not even testing. But there are some restaurants in New York, and I think New York's the only one I've heard so far that are actually testing. The restaurants themselves are doing the testing because they can't trust the government to do it. And here's an odd thing that happened over in Australia. It was raining worms. They had, and it wasn't even the rain. There was no clouds in the sky, and it was at this school where kids were out playing. And you go to news.stv.tv, and they have pictures of thousands of worms all over the ground. Can't explain it. From a site called truthiscontagious.com, the radiation levels around Japan are what they call immeasurable. They are so high that they're off the chart. But you don't hear our news talk about it, though. From Fox News, radiation level in Japan, millions times above legal limit. Millions. It's not good. Here in, this is April 5th from naturalnews.com. The EPA, that's our Environmental Protection Agency, has raised the limits, like I said earlier, for radiation exposure, while Canada has turned off all of their detectors. They don't want the public to worry, so they turned off the detectors. I don't know about you, but I would like to know. It ain't worrying, it's just about knowing. Other things that's just occurring bad against the planet in Tennessee. This is from the HuffingtonPost.com. In Tennessee, Gatlinburg, millions of gallons of wastewater were spilled into a river. And that's the stuff that goes down your toilet and down your sink. And there's 2 workers missing that they figure are dead. Says after a wastewater treatment plant in the Smoky Mountains, the drainage failed, and it spilled millions of gallons of sewage into their water and killed 2 people. Gold, oil, and silver is at an all-time high. I don't know if you guys remember, you know, I've been talking about buying silver for a long time. We started buying when it was $25 an ounce. It's now at $43 an ounce. And as the dollar gets worse, silver and gold will go up. That's not a guess, that's just how it's always been. And until they can fix our country and the economy gets better and stop the depression and stop printing money and the banks stop stealing money, and it's not going to be Obama that fixes it, because he's making it worse, and I think he knows he's making it worse. He's a puppet, and he's being told to do this to destroy the country. In the Fukushima, Japan, they're worried about an explosion, so they are injecting nitrogen into the plant. You can go to Fox News and just look up nitrogen injected at nuke plant, and it shows pictures of them with these big tubes injecting nitrogen. I guess what nitrogen does is will in effect will just get rid of the vapors that'll cause an explosion. I myself don't understand it, but that's one of the things. That's how worried they are of an explosion. There are some scientists that say that if it explodes, it could be an atomic explosion. Could be very, very bad. I don't know if you know the Declaration of Independence. The very first paragraph has this line that says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." Twice Obama has said this sentence, and he has left out endowed by their Creator. I mean, they have it on video. He's at these press conferences, and he'll say that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights. He completely skips that they are endowed by the Creator, like he himself can change what the Founding Fathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence, that this country is based on God. It's not my opinion, it's how it's written. There was more earthquakes going on all over the place. There's on April 7th, there was another earthquake in Japan, and a different nuke plant, the Anagawa nuclear plant, lost power. When they lose power, it means they can't push the coolant through to cool down the rods. So that whole country, man, it's still just, they're messed up. It didn't say nothing really happened to the plant, just that they lost power, which is not a good thing. There was a 6.5 earthquake that hits Mexico on April 7th. You know that recently there was in threat of the government shutdown because they couldn't come up with a budget. And by the way, this budget was from last year. We haven't even done this year's budget yet. But it was just a good article here from, it's called thehill.com, you know, where they were threatening for a shutdown, that your parks aren't going to be open, the military's not going to get paid, but the president and every senator and congressman would still get paid, which is just insane. They shouldn't get paid either, but they did. They would have if it shut down. It didn't shut down, but if it did, they still would have got paid. South Korea is closing 150 schools because they are worried about the radiation coming from Japan. And this is a whole country that is not going to let kids go to school because of radiation. And what are we doing? You can't even find anything on the news anymore coming out of Japan. But these are what other countries are doing, and we're just sitting back going, it's okay, don't worry about it. Japan has, they've widened the evacuation zone. It was at 15 kilometers, now it's at 25 kilometers from the nuclear site, and that's not even far enough. They have on radar, there's this huge debris field floating from Japan to the west coast, California, Alaska. I think it's already hit, but it's all the stuff that washed out to sea from that country. I mean, there's houses, cars, bodies, limbs, all that's going to wash ashore on California coast here pretty soon. The U.S. Navy has been out there monitoring it, and they said they've never seen anything like it. And now they're worried about it posing a hazard to the shipping lanes of stuff coming back and forth in the Pacific Ocean. That was on thedailymail.com. It's a UK, British article. Most of the time on the news, when they even do talk about radiation, they talk about iodine, which is bad over periods of time. I mean, it's not like anyone's going to drop dead over radioactive iodine on the spot. I mean, 5-10 years later, you're going to see a huge increase in cancer. It's going to be like a 21-year-old kid who's a track star who's never smoked a day in his life, all of a sudden end up with lung cancer. And they won't say it was because of Japan, but it was. But what they don't talk about is cesium. Cesium is another type of radiation that is making it over here. And that's a lot more deadly. Those are the ones that will give you radiation poisoning and put you in the hospital, which, by the way, the hospitals in Japan are overloaded with radiation poisoning victims. And doctors and nurses are refusing to treat them because they don't want to get sick themselves. So as you go along your everyday, I mean, things are not getting better. Just because our press doesn't talk about it does not mean it's getting better. It's actually getting worse. Because that nuclear site is still, it's emitting as much radiation today, and it's like 6 weeks later, as it did the very first day. They've done absolutely nothing to contain it. So, they talked about that first cloud that went from Japan over to here. It's not just one cloud, it's a steady stream. And that's what gets you. It isn't just the first dose of radiation. It's called buildup, as it builds up in your system and more and more and more, and in the ground and in the water and in the food. And that's why I have you take the kelp, because that'll help against the iodine. It won't help against nothing else, but it'll help against the iodine, which we should worry about it. I don't know if you guys, where you live, can watch Channel 12 News, but just the way the media is. Channel 12 News, I've been watching this guy, Bill Harris, on TV since I was a teenager. And they got a new owners, and they came in and they fired everybody from Channel 12 News. And they hired all these young talking heads that look like models, and it's just kind of sad, but everyone in Flint is like boycotting Channel 12 News right now. Hold on a second.